Well, from reports emanating from across the country, while the protests were peaceful in many parts of the country, incidents of violence was recorded, very disturbing. And I think for me, we should now begin to draw the necessary lessons from what happened today. First of all, is the need for the government, and I'm not talking of the federal government alone, the federal government, the state government, the local government, and all authorities in our country to learn to move speedily to douse tension in the country, to learn to engage people, as I did suggest a couple of weeks ago. The government must engage, the young people who are aggrieved. Unlike some of us who say we didn't know who the organizers of the protest were or are, the State Security Service claim to know them. And so once they have been identified, what the government should have done was to engage them. And for me, it is more urgent than ever before to begin that constructive engagement in the interest of the country. And in the entire country today, I think it was only in Rivers State where the governor came out, Governor Fubara, to address the crowd. And for the young people, you could see it on television, they felt substantially fulfilled, that at least somebody was listening to them and somebody was assuring them that their complaints will be attended to. And that should happen all over the place. And then we must also learn to stop mobilizing people to disrupt rallies. We must stop mobilizing traditional institutions or traditional rulers and some emergency organizations, youth bodies, to say, oh, we are pulling out of the protest. Did you plan the protest with anybody? So the government must now begin to identify those who are genuinely aggrieved and then begin to engage them. What are your complaints? So that people will have a feeling, a sense of belonging. For me, that is key. Secondly, the security forces in our country must also, from this experience, learn to engage those who have given notice of protest. Because what the law now requires, what the law is saying, what the law has stipulated, is that once you notify the police that you want to have a rally, a public meeting, or a procession, the police shall make arrangement to provide adequate security. And that is not enough, because from what I saw on the television this afternoon, and I begin to ask myself, I'm asking myself, do we have enough? Because this was the experience the last time. Do we have enough tear gas? I didn't see any water cannon anywhere. Because when you are managing a crowd in any modern society, there must be the possibility that a peaceful protest can turn violent. Even in the most advanced democratic countries, what do? You have to fire tear gas, water cannon, so that you can demobilize those who are violent. But where we do not have enough tear gas, or water, we have no water cannon at all, you run into problems. And so, for me, the government must go back to the drawing table and begin to draw necessary lessons and see how we can prevent occurrence of violence. Because in this country, we have been having protests since the colonial regime. You talk of Abba women protests in 1929, when the British colonial regime killed 55 women, unarmed women. In 1949, Iva Valley workers were on strike for better conditions of service. The British colonial regime killed 21 of them. And we can't continue like that under a democratic government of our own. And so that is why the government and the security forces must discard the neo-colonial orientation. We must see our people. We must see our people as our people and engage them and ensure that the government goes out to douse tension all the time.
Mr. Falana, let me jump in quickly. Let's look at the legal framework or some of the legality or the issues, legal issues that have since now been brought into the fray. We saw that in Abuja, for example, in the FCT, there is an Abuja court that is giving an order restricting the protesters to the National Stadium. In Lagos, the Lagos High Court has restricted the protesters
the Federal
parks,
the
Peace Park and the Freedom Park. In Ogun State, there is a similar court order granted by the court. But we see that the protest, as much as the police and government say, if we do not want a street demonstration or marching on the street, it does look like the protesters move beyond the premise of the court ruling. What do you make of that kind of scenario which played out today?
Again, I think the government should have learned not to rush to court on the eve of a strike action by workers or on the eve of a protest by young people. I think it was in 2006, the NSA was going to go on strike, and in the dead of the night, another was issued by a Lagos High Court, which the then president of Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, referred to as a black market injunction. Because the difficulty with such orders is that they are never served on those they are meant to restrain. For instance, the order in Lagos wasn't served on anybody. The orders in Ogun State were not served on anybody. The order in Abuja, I even think one of the defendants, I think is said to be unknown persons. Now, how do you serve a court order on an unknown person? But likely, to be honest with you, I think with respect to Abuja and Lagos and I think Ogun, there was substantial compliance. Many of the protesters did come out to criticize the restriction. And when my views were sought, I did say yes, whereas Section 83, subsection 4 of the Police Act provides for procession, rallies, and public meetings and protests. But if the police say sorry, or the state says we're unable to mobilize enough security forces to man enough policemen and women to man processions all over the country, yes, you may have to understand that. If they now say you are restricted, right? In Lagos, likely today, from my information, people came as far from about 40-30 kilometers away to participate in the protest in Ojota. Again, that was the venue that was being used for protests before the government sealed it off. Ditto for Abuja. Protesters were using an enclosure. The Unity Fountain is a stone's throw from Transcorp Hilton Hotel. The government in Abuja, the FCT administration, sealed it off. So people then went to the street. If the government is now coming back to say, in every state capital, we want to designate a venue, a protest ground, as is done in many countries in the world. Again, I think that is a lesson to learn from this. But don't rush to court. When you had at least 2 weeks notice, at least 2 weeks notice of an impending protest, don't rush to court on the eve of that protest, because even if the court makes the order, it's not going to be served on people practically. And that is why, as I said, we must be drawing some lessons from this protest. And for our judges too, there is also the need to learn to be very cautious, so that orders of court are not made irrelevant to situations in our country. Because if an order of court, it's not obeyed, and you are ridiculing the court, and we shouldn't allow that.
But Mr. Falana, if you see those who were at the Eagle Square, it would seem to me, legally speaking, that protesters have been forbidden by the order of court, which should be sacrosanct and which should be binding on all persons that are willing to protest. And same with Lagos, same with Abeokuta or Ogun State. And if the court says you are restricted to this place, what is the consequence? For example, if police had arrested anyone outside of those specified areas, what are the consequences? Consequences.
You know, this business of law, sometimes when you are talking politics, there are complications. For instance, yes, if anybody is arrested in Digu Square or outside the National Stadium protesting in Abuja, you will need to take the person to court for contempt. To initiate a contempt proceedings, you must show, you must demonstrate that the order was served on the person. But if the person says, I'm not aware of your order, it's going to be difficult. But what is important, because I did investigate, why did anybody go to Eagle Square, even when the court has restricted you to the National Stadium, Abiola Stadium? Unfortunately, my finding, it's not very good. I mean, it's not, doesn't speak well of the authorities, because there was going to be a major violent clash in the stadium, whereby a counter-protest was also organized. A group that had description, had vest, wore vest, known to protest, came in about 6 lorry loads. And so these other guys who had been restricted to the stadium simply withdrew and attempted to use it in Eagle Square. And from my report again, there will have been a clash between apart from throwing of tear gas, there will have been a serious clash. But I understand some senior military officers who were around, appealed to the police, to ensure that peace was maintained. And that was why we didn't have any terrible incident in Abuja today. So that is what I mean by saying organizers of protests and the police must be in touch during protests. And that was why the Inspector General of Police was asking for details. Who are the leaders of the protests in each of the states, so that we can link up with them if there is going to be any disturbing, a situation. And again, as I said, we are learning. Where we are coming from is that public protests were declared illegal in the country. And those who brought that law to Nigeria, as was said in the case of MPP and IGP in Ghana, those who brought the law on protest, restricting protests in our countries, never applied such laws in their country, that is United Kingdom. So now that we are free, we must now allow our people to express themselves. If you are not able to use the newspapers or the television, you can go to the street, either for or against the government. And when that is going to be done, to make it peaceful, the security must be involved. So this is the position of the law today. But if you then go to court, you want to restrict me, you must give me notice, you must serve me the notice, so that we can also tell all the who will be participants in the protest, we have now been restricted. This is the basis of the restriction. And that is one of the lessons we have to learn from the protest.
Yeah, is there one, someone like Ebunlu Adegburuwa has advised that, look, this protest shouldn't be more than a day. On the fourth day, And in fact, prior to this morning, there are those who believe that the objective of the planned protest has been established because government is already responding. And Ebulu Adegborua did advise different persons and stakeholders involved, security agencies, government, protesters, and he said one day should be enough. I'd like to know whether in your view that the objective of these protests has been served or has been communicated to the quarters that need to hear them.
You know, my position is that even if the protests hadn't occurred today, if there had been no movement today, the organizers could jolly well say, we have drawn attention of the government and the people of Nigeria to our protests because the government popularized the protest through its reaction. The government summoned many meetings in Abuja. The government came out almost belatedly to reel out the list of achievements of the federal government. At the same time, some officials of the government embark on a campaign of calumny against certain people who they thought were responsible for the protest. But now that the protest took place today, as I said, I didn't plan a protest. Ebonade said didn't plan a protest. We can only advise. But what is important is to engage the organizers of the protest. We were involved as lawyers, and usually when people are going to protest, they say, well, in case we're arrested, we would like your services. And again, when we made the IG, we did make the point. I'm not a member of the Take Back movement. But since we are invited to this meeting, we need to give advice on the state of the law, on when we had the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC had protests in the past, and now it was managed. So that is our duty. Now it is the organizers of the protest that the government will have to persuade to call off. And it has happened sometimes. The Nigerian Labour Congress has said, we're going to have an indefinite protest. After a day, the government reaches out to them. They say, okay, we are postponing the protest to see how the government will react in the next 2 or 3 months. And we must use the same formula here. Oh, you have made your point. Young people have a way of saying, what point have we made? So, but we can say, at least this is already clearly a wake-up call for the government and on the part of the government. I'm not talking of the federal government alone. I'm not talking of the federal government alone. The governments that are closer to the people, the state and local government, must now be seen to be involved in promoting public accountability in our country. The legislators in Abuja that had a special session almost on the eve of the protest should now go beyond expressing concern and telling the protesters, we have heard you loud and clear. You must now begin by saying, now that they have been asked to go to their constituency, during this recess, the legislators must meet members of their constituency to discuss their constituency projects. Where those projects are going to be located, the contractors that will handle the projects, because we understand not less than 500 million naira has gone to every constituency. Because by September or thereabout, another budget will be presented. On the part of the state governments, it's not enough to be asking for palliatives from Abuja. The state government must also move out to also address problems, increasing poverty in the country. For instance, and this is why young people too, the protesters, and all of us, particularly the elite, must take more than a passing interest in the affairs of our country. Because just last week, the FAC shared about 1.3 trillion to the 3 tiers of government. That is the highest in the last 1 year. In addition to that, the federal government disbursed to 34 states and the FCT. I say 34 because Anambra and Kaduna were not involved. According to the government, the federal government, they hadn't submitted certain reports. 438 billion naira was given to the states as part of the loan taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the money now is now being used to address poverty in the country. So we must also engage our governors. This money that has come from Abuja, in addition to your statutory allocation for July, what are the projects? Who are the people to be assisted from this huge fund? So, and unless we have a comprehensive review of the affairs of the government, the budget of the government, not just the budget of the federal government, the budget of the state government, the budget of local governments, and then we ensure that budget implementation is taken very seriously.
Yep. Yeah. We're due for a break, but I wanted to know if the objective of the protest has been achieved.
Well, you see, for the young people, they have some demands. The government will have to address those demands. And that is why I've suggested, as a matter of urgency, an engagement with the leaders of the protest movement. So we can't stay outside and say,
how much? Sorry, Mr. Falana, I'm wondering, because if the government is saying we do not really identify the leaders of the, except Mr. Mohbad'sfather that the police have been interfacing with.
Yes.
And yourself also has been in the mix. In fact, that those who will say, who should we now hold accountable now that these fears of the federal government has been established, the fear that this thing might lead to violence, and we've seen violence in some parts of the country today, looting and vandalism. The fears of the government has been established, isn't it?
The State Security Service announced publicly. We know the organizers. This is their objective. Oh yes. Of course, one of the groups briefed our colleague, can you please apply to the police that this is our route, not for permit, just information. This is our route. And it is so. There are other groups whose leaders are known to the government. And this is the time now to quickly summon a meeting of those leaders. It's not like Kansas. That was a leaderless revolution. This one, the leaders are known. They have been issuing statements. And the government has been responding to the statement. And so for me, it is easy for the government to identify those leaders. Because it's not enough for us, one day is okay, the government has listened to you, the government is responding. If the organizers feel that the issues raised by them have not been addressed, then we may not be addressing the problem, so that we don't deceive ourselves.
Mr. Falana, my question here is that if the fears of the government ab initio is there could be violence, so don't do the protest. Now that there is violence, who will the government hold accountable to that? For example, in Borno State, bomb went off and people are dead now. In Kano State, they looted the NCC park and they went into the government house. In some state, there is now curfew in nothing less than 2-3 states in the country. Who should the Nigerian people or the government hold accountable when it has been foreseen that there could be violence?
Well, unfortunately, violence occurred in some parts of the country, unfortunately. And of course, I wish to express my condolences, to those, the families of those who were killed. In matters like this, what will happen, what will have to happen is for the state governments involved to investigate the remote and immediate causes of the violence that has occurred. And that happened during the NSAS protest. Unfortunately, majority of the state government did not even release the reports of the judicial commissions of inquiry set up during the NSAS protest. If those reports have been released and white papers have been issued, recommendations have been implemented, there's no way we'll have had any kind of violence this time around. And that is why we must learn. For instance, one of the recommendations from the judicial commissions of inquiry is that next time that people want to protest, the government must move speedily to address their complaints so that we won't be having protests that may lead to violence. With respect to who to blame, I'm not going to be able to say, oh, blame this one or blame that, because some of them will also say, we played our part. In many parts of the country, there was no violence, or here, maybe the handling by the security forces might have contributed. So I think this is the issue.
All right. I most sincerely thank you, Mr. Falana, for your thought.
So we have been trying our very best as traditional rulers to close the rank and gap between the people that we are actually in charge in our various communities. We are the closest to our people. It's very imperative for us to know that we are at the first point of call. The good, we are the first point of call. The bad, we're the first point of call. And the ugly, we're indeed the first point of call. It's very important for us that it's about time to start bringing governance on behalf of our political leaders to the people. We are not politicians. We have a very long reign. It's designed by forces of nature, and we can't leave the political leaders to actually continue to sensitize our people. It's very important that our advocacy must be stronger, and we must come together as a unified force. What happened today in Owerri has actually not happened in the last over 100 years. The last kind of gathering was during the Southern Protectorate, when amalgamation happened in 1914. And we have never had a wider understanding, a wider acceptability of this kind of what happened today. Today, we've made a very good and formidable history in southern part of the country. We are all coming together only for our people, and we are not after politics. We are political fathers. We are political leaders to all politicians, because they will come and they will go. It's very important that we traditional rulers, we do not lock our palaces. We are much more prone and open to our people. It's about time for us to let the people know which direction governance is going. The newly structured local government reform, it's a very wonderful, welcome development that can benefit each and everybody in the society. What is happening today, right now, we need to let our people know that it is important for us to let them know that political and all our political leaders will come and go, but common assets and public assets shouldn't be destroyed. we will be the one to suffer, because we should come together as a country and not as individuals. People that are clamoring for riots, or protest or demonstration, we know it is their civic right.
His Imperial Majesty, if I may cut in, apologies please. Let me quickly ask you. You are closer to the people. You represent a force in the traditional realm. But can you tell us, and I'm assuming you're asking people not to go to the street, not to protest, but then what are the agitations of the people? Because the Nigerians would like to know whether the traditional rulers are actually in touch with their people and they know their yearnings. I mean, you met with governors and the SGF who represented the president. Tell Nigerians what the agitations of the people are. What are they crying for?
Well, we traditional rulers, we never said that people shouldn't go to the streets to demonstrate. I want you to get this out, Shion. It is their right. Even our political leaders confirmed that they can go. We met Mr. President, myself and Sultan, we are the co-chair of National Traditional Rulers Council. We met Mr. President like 4 or 5 days ago, and we had a very good meeting. The agitation is real. We know that we have a lot of suffering in the country, and it is not only Nigeria. We have global inflation. It is everywhere, not only Nigeria. If it is only Nigeria, yes, we can now get more worried. But what we traditional rulers are after is, do not let us destroy our country ourselves. This is a global phenomenon. We should be very sensitive about it. We should be very mindful that we should love our country more than anything. We should focus on patriotism, true patriotism. And also, we that are the owners of the country and all the people of Nigeria, I'll give a good example. We are also the problem. I did something in my community in Ife. We have a lot of middlemen and associations. I went out and I broke the ranks of all of them. You will not believe that prices in the market crashed more than 30% within a day. And we were able to sustain that over the course of about a month within the community. If we continue with such advocacy, we will realize everything, they put it in government's problem. Oh, it's government that is causing problem for price hike. We people are even the problem of ourselves. All the people that are agitating for demonstration and protest, where are their own children? Are they in public school? We are all culprits. Maybe when the problem starts, they will look for how to run away from this country. We do not have anywhere we're running to. We are traditional rulers. We must ensure that public asset not destroyed. And we must ensure that appeal so that they can give government, the current government, a little bit of time, since it's a global thing, so that they can give them time to actually correct things. That's why we're coming together as Southern traditional rulers for the first time.
So let me ask, what solutions are you proffering to the federal government? Because on one hand, the people are asking government for transparency, accountability, good governance. And they're asking them that what you told us you will do at the campaigns, have you delivered on them? Now, you are the middleman in quotes, in the sense that you are that level, you are closer to the people, in fact, more than the local government authorities. You should have solutions. Part of the solution that you suggested at your meeting today, can you mention one or two of them tonight?
Number one, thank you very much. The solution is very not far-fetched. Number one is patience. The government, we've engaged them. We have let them know that it is real. It is indeed a lot of Nigerian citizens are not happy. The scene is getting wider. The disparity between the upper class and the lowest of the lowest class getting wider. People cannot go to their farms because of security. A lot of things are happening that are so intense in terms of poverty and in terms of hunger. We can see it's very clear. But let us focus on solution. Number one, when we told government, they told us to appeal to our people for a little bit of patience. They will come up with a lot of incentives that will continue to bring it down. Now, the solution, they told us, look at local government reform. The local governments now have autonomy for 3 tiers of government. They will have local government chairman that will have their own budget and budgetary allocation. They will spend the money very close to the community. It hasn't been implemented. That's one of the very, very major moves that has been done. Government is saying we should wait and let us be patient for it to happen. We believe also that palliatives will not really solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem at all, because the palliatives, we know how people will share it amongst themselves and it will get to the right people. What is critical now is to do proper engagement with the masses. It's very important, because what they are clamoring for is what are they going to eat. And also, we have actually made our platform open to the government. They are not using the traditional institution enough to get to the people. It is the government arms that they are using, and they've been using this for the last 60 years. Let them use the platform of traditional institutions to get to the people and see whether it's going to fail. This time around, they've agreed that they will work with us, and that's the reason why we are also re-energized to actually support the local government reforms and make sure that a lot of people are going to benefit from it.
I was going to ask that, though. His Imperial Majesty, I'm worried. I did not see the Awujale of Ijebu land there. I did not see the Oba of Benin. These are also very, very paramount rulers in the southern Nigeria. One be wondering what exactly went wrong, why maybe there were representatives for them. But I was also going to ask you the nexus between the traditional institution, the government, and the people. Because there are those who are complaining that some of these palliatives, some of these things, grains and all what have you, that are supposed to be dispatched to the people, people are not getting them, whether or not they are going to use the traditional institution. But His Imperial Majesty, can you tell us, you are not only a traditional ruler in Yoruba land, you are not only a monarch of Ile-Ife, you are also the spiritual head of the Yoruba race. Does the problem of Nigeria need some spiritual approach, do you think?
Thank you, Shil. Well, let me first of all, you've asked me 2 questions now. The first one is, Awujale, we know him, we pray for him to live long. He's very old, we cannot stress him, but Awujale ably represented on behalf of all the Ogun State traditional institutions. We have their current chairman, Olu of Ilaro, was with us. And we have like 4 other monarchs from Ogun State. You mentioned about Benin. About Benin too was ably represented. Sent the representative of about Benin. So all of us, we are all in it. It's a problem that we need to face. Nobody can actually absorb himself from this. There is a lot of challenges in the country, and we need to come out. Yes, we are carrying this crown, and we are carrying this regal and all the royalty. We need to actually use that to impact our people. It's very, very important. So for that, we have close to 98% representation and physical presence of all the relevant monarchs across, not only in Southwest, the whole of southern Nigeria, as in South, we have very, very well represented. Even in Southeast, we are like about 98%. So it was a success. We had a very good success on that angle. Then on palliatives, it has not worked, and it's not going to work, because we know that when you go through a particular route, some will store it for political aggrandizement. They will want to take a lot of pictures and make a lot of fanfare about it, not knowing that the people that need this thing, some of them are even dying. But where is a platform that you don't even have an adequate security? How do they relate with traditional institutions? When they are going for campaign, they get to all our palaces and they talk to us. So when they are now distributing palliatives, why can't they drop it in our palaces? The same way they know that we have convergent points. They've never done it before. When they want to get to people, they know that we are so accountable. We always hold palace courts. People prefer to come to the palaces, and it is all over Nigeria. God has given us that gift in this country. And that leads to your third question, spirituality. Heaven helps those who help themselves. Are we going to continue to say we will be attacking Nigerian issue with spiritual issues? Let us help. We are even the problem of our country. A lot of people are hoarding it. They give you palliatives, they will go and sell it in the open market to make supernormal profit, 1,000% profit. They want to just be, what are they going to own this world? Some people are suffering. They have not had time to eat. You have so much mansion in the midst of people that have poverty all over you. How well have you taken care of your maid, your drivers, people that are cleaning your shoe? How well have you gotten concerned about how their children are faring? These are the problems of our nation. Any little thing, you run out of the country. And yet, you make all the money, you make all your fortune from this country. Now, we are appealing to everybody that, look, don't let us destroy public assets. It happened during NSAS. All the organizers, yes, you have rights to do it. All right. But it's very important. Are you going to save the normal human being on the street? No. Once it goes wrong, you will all find your way out of the country. We don't have anywhere to go as traditional rulers.
Thank you so much. A question.